For what purpose does the gentleman from Florida seek recognition?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to offer.
Does the gentleman have an amendment at the desk?
Yes, I have an amendment at the desk.
The
Mr.
clerk
Speaker.
will designate the amendment.
Amendment number 51, printed in Part F of House Report number 118-216, offered by Mr. Donalds of Florida.
Pursuant to House Resolution 723, the gentleman from Florida, Mr. Donalds, and a member opposed will each control 5 minutes. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from Florida.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Listen, I will be brief. My amendment does one simple thing. It actually restores the funding for the Foreign Agricultural Service to FY19 levels. In short, Mr. Speaker, our government spends a lot of money. We're not even sure if it's really effective. And one of the things that is critical to get our overall fiscal house in order is start to look at line items in the federal budget pre-COVID. And so we've plussed up a lot of these agencies and a lot of these departments, and the COVID pandemic was used as a reason to do so. My amendment is simple. The COVID pandemic is over. It is now time to start focusing on getting the fiscal house in order while still being focused on the programs that are important to the agriculture community and other communities. My amendment does that, and with that, I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman reserves. For what purpose does the gentleman from Georgia seek recognition?
I claim time in opposition.
The gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
I certainly rise in opposition to this amendment. The amendment would reduce funding for the Foreign Agricultural Service, which reduces the services promoting United States agricultural exports, developing overseas markets, and increasing global food security. This cut would directly harm American farmers because they would have less opportunities to market their commodities abroad. There's already a 14.15% cut from the House levels imposed by the majority in this bill, and these cuts would only further harm our American farmers. I urge opposition to this amendment and I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Florida is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, let's be very clear. What we're talking about is moving the requested number for this appropriation down $23.4 million. In 2019, we spent $213,890 on the Foreign Agriculture Service. All we're saying is moving back to that line. The federal government will still be able to accomplish its mission, but we don't have the additional resources. We have to be prudent with the people's money so we can actually cut back to 19 levels and still accomplish the mission. And with that, I yield 1 minute to the gentleman from Maryland.
The gentleman from Maryland is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Look, I want to congratulate the member from Florida for bringing a concrete idea to the floor on how to cut our $2 trillion federal deficit. Once again, it's very easy to spend money. We could make a list of 1,000 programs that are deserving programs. The fact of the matter is, Mr. Chair, we have to borrow every single cent to fund the programs in this agriculture bill. And our grandchildren have to pay it back. That's immoral. I yield back.
The gentleman from Georgia is recognized.
Yes, I think it's interesting to hear the discussion about a $2 trillion deficit when that was created by the tax cut that they passed in that last administration. $2 trillion because they cut the taxes and reduced the amount of revenue. Come on. You know, you balance the budget with revenues as well as with spending reductions. Let's be real here. This is just a subterfuge. We need to defeat this amendment, and we need to move forward and try to produce an agriculture bill that really addresses the needs of the American people in 2023. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Florida is recognized for remaining 2.5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I did not hear an argument as to why $250 million needs to be spent for the Foreign Agriculture Service. What I heard, Mr. Speaker, was talk about the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, which, by the way, has yielded more tax revenue to the federal government than at any other time in American history. The minority party refuses to acknowledge the fact that actual tax policy changes in a positive way, which reduces rates on producers in our country, actually yields more tax revenue to the federal government. They refuse to acknowledge that to this day. If you're going to ask a recipe for fiscal sanity in this nation, it is actually lower marginal tax rates over a consistent period of time, consistent controlled spending restraint at the federal level over a period of time. Those two things will actually yield us to spending less in this government and provide more prosperity to all of the people that we serve, regardless of where they fall on the economic ladder. Mr. Speaker, I ask my colleagues to support this amendment. This is what we should be doing, and I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman yields back. The question is on the amendment offered by the gentleman from Florida. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The ayes have it, and the amendment is agreed to.